Hello, everyone, and welcome to our reviewer webinar. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carol, and I'm part of the Learning and Content Management team. And joining me today from the Learning and Content Management team are my colleagues Marjorie and Julian, and we also have Jenilyn from the Researcher Support team. Before we begin the content of the webinar today, just a few things to note. If you have a question at any time during the content of the session, then please do use the Q&A option to send your question directly to us. We will try to answer as many questions as possible during the session today directly in the Q&A channel. If we cannot answer all of the questions, then we will reply to you directly after the session, unless you've posted the question anonymously. We'll also cover some of the most frequently asked questions at the end of the session as well. For the best view, you may wish to drag the central bar on your screen to the right to enlarge the screen that I'm sharing. And you may also wish to enable live transcripts via the bar at the bottom of your screen. Okay, so now let's take a look at our agenda for today. Okay, so our agenda today will briefly cover how to write a high-quality peer review report and how to submit your review directly in Editorial Manager. Then we will look at how editors choose reviewers for a manuscript. Then we will take a look at how to claim your Scopus profile, then how to add your peer review activities to your ORCID profile, how to set your reviewer preferences, what the options are for reviewers who are willing to review, and then also finally looking at downloading a reviewer recognition certificate as well. Okay, so let's just get started. So firstly, we're just going to talk about how to write a high quality peer review report. So we'll just explore that in some more detail. Some of our journals, which you may have reviewed for previously, employ a method we call structured peer review, whereby you will receive a series of questions which will help to make it easier for you to convey your recommendations for improvement to a submission in a structured manner. So on screen, you can just see here, this follows a list of the standard question banks for different article types. So here we're looking at research articles and also review articles. Even if the journal that you're reviewing for does not make use of structured peer review, we would strongly recommend that you consider these types of questions before starting to review a manuscript. For more information on this and on how to conduct a review, we'd recommend that you visit the elsevier.com page for reviewers, where you'll find a lot of useful information like this. And Julian will share a link to this in the chat in just a moment. But as I said, these slides here just go through the various tips for research articles and for review articles as well. Okay. Next, I just wanted to talk about how you would go about responding to a review invitation. So before you accept or decline an invitation to review, it's important to consider the following questions. So firstly, does the article match your area of expertise? And you should only ever accept an invitation if you feel you can provide a high quality review of that manuscript. Nextly, do you have a potential conflict of interest? So if you feel that you may do, then it's very important to disclose this to the editor when you respond. So just important to check through the list of authors of the submission before you agree to review. Nextly, of course, do you have time? Reviewing can be quite time consuming. It can take a lot of work. So before you commit to doing it, just make sure that you can meet the deadline, which will be included in the invitation to review. It's important to respond to the invitation as soon as you can, even if you're just declining the invitation. A delay in your decision will slow down the review process, and it also means more waiting time for the author. So if you do decline the invitation, it's also really helpful for the editor if you could provide the name or names of alternate reviewers as well, just some suggestions of people they might wish to invite instead. Okay, when journals solicit reviews, reviewers like you will receive an email invitation. So this is just an example here of the type of invitation you might receive. From here, you can see the email invitation will often include the manuscript title, the abstract usually of the paper, the response due date, and there'll also be deep links to accept or decline the invitation. If the journal requests your response within a specific time frame and they do not receive your response by that date, the invitation will expire and the links will no longer work. So as I said before, just try to ensure you respond before this date. You can either accept or decline the invitation by clicking on the deep link from the email, or you can also log into the Editorial Manager site for that journal and accept or decline from your reviewer profile. So now we're just going to move across to Editorial Manager and explore the review submission process together. Please note today that I'm going to be using our training site for the demonstration with test users and test submissions. So things may look a little different to what you see when you log into your journal. And this can always be down to different roles and different settings per journal. But overall, things will look much the same as you will see for your own journals. So just one moment, and I'm going to move across. Okay, Julian, could I just ask you to check if you can see Editorial Manager on screen now?
Yes, Carol, we can see Editorial Manager. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for confirming. Okay, so as I said, today we're looking at a training site. So when you come to log in to the Editorial Manager site for your journal that you're reviewing for, you'll see the title of the journal in the blue banner at the top of the screen here. You'll also see the cover image of the journal to the left here. If you are coming to register with a journal for the first time, if you've never logged in before, then you can register by clicking on the Register Now link here in the center of the screen. If you've previously registered with the journal and perhaps you've forgotten your username or password, you can use the Send Login Details link just here to send your login details. So you just need to enter the email address that you're registered with, and then the login details will be sent to you, and you'll then have the option to update your password or your other details from then. It's important as well that to note that you can also change your details. So, for example, if you were to update your if you've changed your email address or you've changed your affiliation, you don't need to register a second time. This just avoids having duplicate accounts in the system. So you will always have the option to update your details once you've logged in. And this also makes it easier for editors when finding reviewers because it means you'll just have one record in the system. So once you're ready to log in, you just need to enter your username and password, and then you can click on Reviewer Login. Okay, so we are now logged in as our test reviewer today, and you can see we're looking at the reviewer main menu. You can see that here on the left. Before we talk about submitting a review, I just wanted to mention the option to update your details. So when you are logged in, you'll see your own name appearing at the top right of the screen. If you click on your name, you'll see you have the option, you'll see your username displayed here. You will see your role as well. So if you've logged in as a reviewer, that's the role you'll see. However, you can also change to your author role if you were wanting to submit a paper to the journal yourself as an author, or similarly, if you had an editor role, that would be available from the drop down here. You will also see this option to update your information. So if you have changed your affiliation or you need to change any other details related to your profile, you can do that via this Update My Information link just here. Also from the reviewer main menu, you'll see various reviewer resources. So any upcoming webinars, for example, you can see that the webinar that we're having right now is mentioned here with a link to register. Again, any upcoming webinars relating to the reviewer role will be advertised here. You'll also find a link to the reviewer guide to Editorial Manager, and then some useful links to short videos which can help you in navigating the system and in submitting your review. And then there's other details here about the Reviewer Hub, which we'll talk a bit about later, about your reviewer certificate and things like that. Another important thing to mention, at the bottom right of the screen, you'll see this question mark icon. So if you click on that, it will open up the Resource Center. So from here, you'll find a lot of useful links. You can go directly to the Editorial Manager Support, which will bring you to the Journal Article Publishing Support Center. And from here, you'll find a lot of very useful articles and FAQs, which will relate to your role as a reviewer using the system, preparing and submitting a review. As well as links to a lot of short video guides as well, which you may find useful. And another thing to mention is the chat option here. So you can contact the support team if you are having any issues using the system, or you just have some questions that you need help with. And as it says here, they're available 24/7 to assist you with that. Okay, so I've mentioned just a moment ago that you can accept or decline the invitation directly from the email. If you do that, you don't need to log in. You can, for example, if you're declining the invitation, you can directly click on the decline link and then go ahead and decline the invitation. If you accept, if you come here and you log in, then you can also find the reviewer invitation from your review assignment section here. So in this case, this reviewer has one new reviewer invitation. So I'm just going to go directly to that folder by clicking on that. So when you log in and you've come to your new reviewer invitation folder, you'll see a table displaying any new reviewer invitations. And the table will contain some of the information that you would have seen in the invitation email. So things like the manuscript number, the article type, the title of the paper, things like the status and so on. Also, when you were invited to review, that sort of thing. You'll also see things like any classifications, if the journal uses classifications, or the keywords of the manuscript as well. So all of these things can help you decide if the paper is within your area of expertise. You may have the option to view the submission. So from the action column on the left that you can just see here, some journals will allow you to view the full submission before you agree to review. For some journals, you may only be able to see the abstract, so you will need to base your decision on reviewing on the abstract, but you might have the option to view the full submission. So if you click on that link, it will open the PDF of the article. You will have the option to view the abstract. So again, it's really important to read through the abstract before you decide to review, just to ensure that it fits in your area of expertise. And then you'll have at the bottom, just to mention, an option to send an email. So if you did need to contact the journal about the invitation or about the review, you'll have that send email option here. And then, as I mentioned before, the options to agree and decline to review are here. So in this case, I'm just going to agree to review this particular submission. So when you agree to review, you will see the paper has now moved to the pending assignments folder, and you might see some other further information, which again, we will talk about a little later about getting your complimentary 30-day access to Science Direct and Scopus as well. But the paper has now moved to the pending assignment folder, which you can access directly from here, or similarly, you can go back to your main menu and find it there. But I'll just go directly to the pending assignments folder. Okay, just close this one for now. So again, you'll see if previously you could only access the abstract of the paper, then now you will be able to view the full submission. So again, clicking View Submission will open up that PDF. And of course, that's the first step, is reading through the full submission before you start preparing your review. You may also have some other options here as well from the action column. Once you've read through the full manuscript and you're ready to begin submitting your recommendation, you would click on the Submit Recommendation link from the action column. So I will just do that now. Okay, so each journal will be set up slightly differently. Different journals have different types of questions that they might ask of a reviewer. So please do read through any instructions provided by the journal. You can see there may be an instruction section at the top of the screen, or you'll find various instructions next to each of the questions. So please do read through all of those before you begin answering. At the top of the screen, you will see the first thing to do is to choose your recommendation. Again, each journal will have slightly different options here. So from the drop down, you will typically have options to accept, reject. Then there may be a variety of different revise recommendations. So in this case, we've got minor revision and major revision. Some journals might have a much longer list. And the important thing is that you just choose the recommendation term that you feel most closely fits with your recommendation for the submission. So in this case, I'm just going to choose major revision. You'll see at the top here and next screen as well that you'll always have the option to cancel. So if you need to come back and do it later, you've got the save and submit later option if you need to take a break and come back and complete the review at a later date. But now I just wanted to mention the option to upload reviewer attachments. Some reviewers like to upload an attachment, maybe something to support their review. Sometimes people like to annotate the PDF of the article and then upload that along with their comments. So that is absolutely fine. That's an option that you may wish to use. So I'm just going to click on that upload reviewer attachment option just to show you. You're asked here, you'll see in the instructions to enter a description, and then you can browse and attach a file to select any additional material or annotated information that you wish to include with your review. So this is usually optional. It's not something you have to do, but if you like to work in that way, then it's quite a useful option. So I'm just going to call mine reviewer file, and then I'm just going to quickly choose a file from my desktop and oops, sorry. I'm just going to quickly grab a file here and upload that. So you just find the file on your computer, upload that, and then when you're ready, you would just click on attach this file. When a file is uploaded, the properties of the file will be sanitized. So that just ensures anonymity for you as a reviewer. But it is important when you're uploading a file that you check to be sure you haven't included any identifying information about yourself within the file. So obviously not including your name or any details like that, but the actual properties of the file will be anonymized. Once you've uploaded your file, you can then go ahead and proceed with the recommendation. Okay, so as I mentioned, the reviewer instructions are here, so you can click on those, and each journal will have slightly different instructions depending on the requirements. So read through those before you proceed. But you will likely see a set of review questions like you can see on screen here. So you may be asked things like, are you willing to review the revision if a revised paper is submitted? If you see a question with an asterisk or in red, it usually means it's a compulsory question. So you need to provide an answer in order to submit your review. So just take a read through all of the questions and choose the appropriate answers for your review. So I'm just going to tick the box, and you'll see they might be in various formats as well. You may also be asked to provide a manuscript rating as well. This will all be explained in the instructions to you on the screen. So these are just some options for our training site, so you can just choose the ones that feel appropriate to you. And then we come to the reviewer comments section. So here you can enter any comments that you have, both for the author and also any confidential comments that you might have for the editor as well. So you may have already uploaded an attachment, but it's still quite useful to just have some comments here for the author to read. These comments will also be pulled into the decision email. So when an editor sends the decision to the author, the comments that you've entered in this field will appear within that email as well. So I'm just going to enter something here just as an example. So that's the reviewer comments to the author. The reviewer confidential comments to editor, as it sounds, is something that will only be visible to the editor or journal staff. So anything you enter in this field here is not something that the author will see. So if you just feel there's something you want to highlight to the editor and you feel the need for the author to know, then you could enter that here. And it's a useful way to just to enter those comments without worrying about causing any offense or anything like that. Okay, Okay, and then you may also be asked at the bottom of the screen here, you can see these transfer authorization questions. You might be asked to give consent if this paper were to be offered transfer to another journal. So sometimes papers that are submitted, the editor may decide that actually they're more suitable for a different journal, and then the author will be offered to transfer their paper to that journal. If that were to happen, if you offer your consent here, if you agree to consent to that, then your review would also be transferred to the other journal as well. So the editor of the other journal could then take a look at that and use that for some further information on the submission. So again, just choose the appropriate answers to those questions. And then, as I said before, you still have those options to save and submit later. But for now, I'm just going to click on proceed. Okay, so when you click on proceed, you've entered your comments and your recommendation term, and we've answered all of the mandatory questions. So you now have a chance to read through all of this and just ensure that everything you've provided is correct and you feel you've given the best comments that you can. If you've made a mistake or you need to change something, you can go back or you can edit your review and use those options here. But once you've checked through and you're happy with how things appear, the final step is to submit your review to the editorial office. So I will just click on that. You get one final option then just to confirm your recommendation term. And then once you're happy, you would click on OK. Okay, and then you'll see a thank you message just confirming that your review has been submitted. The editor will then also receive a notification that you have submitted your review as well. And then if we just return to the main menu, you'll see that the paper has now moved to the completed assignments folder. So if we just open that for a moment. Okay, so the paper we've just reviewed is the very top one on the list here. So you'll see you have the action column available to you. You can view the comments that you've provided. You can also view the attachments that you've uploaded, and you also have an option to send an email. So once you submit the review, you don't have the option at this point to make any changes. However, if you realize after submitting it that you have made a mistake or you forgot to include something, just use this send email option to contact the journal directly, and then you can provide the further information, and the editor or journal manager or editorial office will be able to assist with that question. Okay, once the editor then makes their decision, you will often receive a notification from the journal, so letting you know that a decision has been made. And then often, if it's a final decision, so for example, if it's a revised decision, and the author then subsequently revises their paper, the editor may also invite you to review the revised version of the paper. So if that's the case, when you receive that invitation, you'll be able to see the response that the author has provided to your review comments from the previous version. And then you can obviously go ahead and provide your comments on the updated version of the manuscript. And then typically when the editor will make the final decision, you will also be notified of that. So you'll know whether it was accepted or rejected. So that is just a brief overview of how you can actually go ahead and submit your review directly in Editorial Manager. Now I just want to move back to the presentation to go ahead and continue with the rest of our agenda. So just one moment while I return to our slides. Okay, so we were just looking at responding to the reviewer invitation. So the next point that I wanted to discuss was how do editors choose reviewers for a manuscript? And this is something that reviewers often ask. They wonder how they were found and why the editor chose them. So if you ask any editor about their main challenge in their role, they will most likely mention finding reviewers. That's something that editors often struggle with. And editors have a variety of options that Editorial Manager offers to them to support them in identifying reviewers, and then also in evaluating, inviting, retaining, and then also rewarding reviewers as well for their help with the peer review process. So These are listed here. So the first one I wanted to mention is find reviewers using Scopus. This is a feature which we call Find Reviewers, which uses Scopus data, and it provides recommendations based on AI technology and allows editors to easily identify and evaluate review candidates who have the right expertise and are available to review. So researchers with potential conflicts of interest or reviewers that have been opposed by the authors are filtered out of the results. The remaining candidates are then ranked using various criteria, things like publication history, reviews in progress, or previous reviewing history. The next one to mention is the journal's reviewer database. So if you have previously reviewed for a journal, then or you've been previously invited to review, then your details will already exist in the journal's reviewer database in Editorial Manager. So this feature allows the editor to search directly within the existing database of reviewers. If you've previously submitted a paper as an author to the journal, editors also have the option to search the author database. So you might also be found and invited to review based on that as well. And then setting reviewer preferences. So each editor can configure their own personal preferences for how the search results are displayed in the reviewer candidates grid. So using this option will allow editors can filter reviewers based on things like their classifications, their board membership, editorial board membership, and also things like pending reviews. So that's another useful option. Okay, so next I wanted to talk about how to claim your Scopus profile. So Scopus is the premier source of author profiles. It's the only database that implements algorithmic and systematic author disambiguation. So some of the search options editors use, I've previously mentioned the Find Reviewers tool, but some of the other search options are powered by Scopus. And so if a reviewer does not have their profile linked and updated in Scopus, then they may not appear in the editor's search. The free author lookup is available to anyone with no subscription needed. The author lookup link will be posted in the chat section for you in just a moment, so you can take a look at that. And you can claim your Scopus profile in 5 simple steps. So firstly, you need to locate your author details page and go to the free author lookup link, which I mentioned will be posted in the chat. You would need to search for your name and or your ORCID ID, and Scopus automatically creates a profile for you when you have 2 or more publications indexed. You can verify your author details are correct, and then create a Scopus account so that you can request corrections if they are needed, as I mentioned here. And then always keep your profile up to date. So you can request those corrections to your author profile in Scopus, and then going forward, just ensure that your profile is kept up to date. Okay, next I wanted to talk about how to add your peer review activities to your ORCID profile. So for those of you not familiar with it, ORCID, that stands for Open Researcher and Contributor ID. It's a not-for-profit cross-publisher organization that strives to enable transparent and trustworthy connections between researchers, their contributions, and their affiliations. So it provides a persistent digital identifier, which we call an ORCID ID, which is owned and controlled by the author themselves, and which distinguishes an author from every other researcher or author. The ORCID deposit question will be part of the reviewer form in the section which is entitled ORCID Reviewer Credit, and it will be shown when you are submitting the reviewer comments. So you can follow through and respond to that. And next, I wanted to talk about how to set your reviewer preferences. So you can do this via the Reviewer Hub. The link to the Reviewer Hub will also be posted in the chat section for you shortly. And this allows you to proactively share when you are not available to review. And you can do this anything from 1 week up to 6 months in advance. So if you're going to be taking a leave of absence or holiday or something like that when you're not available to review, then it's very useful to update that information there. So the steps here are listed in how you can actually do that. So you would use the calendar icon in the starting and ending fields to select your unavailable dates. And then you can use the add another option to add multiple dates. And also the trash can icon can be used to remove a previously set unavailable date. There is a provision to set up to 5 date ranges if necessary. And if the date has already passed, then it will automatically expire and it will be removed from the reviewer preferences page. And please note that while we indicate your preferences to the editors, and they'll see that when they come to try and invite you an editorial manager, the final decision does still rest with the editors. So even though you have done this, you may occasionally still receive a reviewer invitation if the editor has not seen this. Next, I wanted to talk about how you can set your review limits. So you can, again, do this via the Reviewer Hub. So this enables you to set a limit of how many reviews you would be able to manage at any time. And you can select anything from a minimum of 1 review to a maximum of 5 from the drop-down available. And the review limits consider only the open review assignments. And so they'll not factor in any open review invitations. So if you've agreed to review, for example, if you set your limit to 3 and you've agreed to review 3 papers, then that will show. But however, it doesn't count in the same way for invitations. The next thing to mention is the options for reviewers who are willing to review. So if you are interested in becoming a reviewer, then there are some useful tips that you can follow. So given the positive results of our journey so far, we recently took the next step in peer review volunteering and launched the Volunteer to Review feature on our Reviewer Hub. This feature will allow researchers to volunteer to review for any Elsevier journal on Editorial Manager. And this feature will allow referees will also be able to add additional information, such as a link to your professional webpage, for example, or your motivation to review for a journal. So this editors will then receive a bit more context about you and your match between you and the journal or a particular type of article, and that match will then be optimized. So just go to the Reviewer Hub volunteer page, and the link to that will again be posted in the chat section. You would then find the journal that you're interested to review for, and you would complete your reviewer profile. So as you can see in the screenshot here, going to that Volunteer for Review tab and then finding the journal and entering in any information that's useful to you. And within the Find Reviewers search option that I mentioned previously, that's powered by Scopus, there is a specific section where any interested reviewers will be displayed. So that will help to kind of get your interest out there and more visible to the editors of a journal. Okay, and then the final thing to talk about is how you can download a reviewer recognition certificate. And doing this is, it's a very simple process. First, you need to log into the Reviewer Hub platform. So on the left here in the screenshot, just highlighted in red, you can see a Certificates tab. So you would just click on the Certificates tab. And then from there, you can click on the Recognized Reviewer Certificate. And then view the certificate in question that you're looking for. So in this case here, you can see just an example of a reviewer certificate. We have prepared an explanatory video on downloading reviewer certificates, and the link to this will also be shared in the chat section for you as well. Thank you, Julian. That was really useful and good to know those questions are being raised. Hopefully we've answered any questions that any of you might have had. I can see lots of people have been answering the poll, which is great. Thank you. If you do have a moment before you leave to do that, we would really appreciate that. The answers that you provide can really help us in providing and offering more webinars like this in the future. So please do take a moment. There's just a few short questions. So that brings us to the end of our webinar today. And thank you all very much for joining and for listening, and also providing questions as well, which hopefully we can all learn from. After the session, as Julian already mentioned, we'll send you an email which will contain a link to a recent webinar recording. So not this specific webinar, but a webinar which covers the same content. There'll also be links to some other useful resources, including short video guides, which relate directly to what we've been discussing today. So please do look out for that email. But that is everything for me. Thank you all very much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you at another webinar in the future. Thank you.